do we got?
We have Sakura in New York. I think I'm saying that correctly. Sakura is exploring paganism and is looking for some feedback. Sakura, is that the correct way to say your name?
I will respond either way. It's perfectly fine.
I would prefer to get it correct.
It's Sakura. You actually pronounced it pretty well.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you're dealing with some, sounds like shifting ideological mindsets, or, just diving into more of the cultural or mythological aspects of things. Talk a little bit about where you're at right now.
Sure. But first, hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm very nervous about this. I'm shaking. If I go off on a tangent, please keep me back on track.
Will do.
So just a bit of my religious background. Nothing typical, nothing out of the typical. I grew up Christian for 16 years of my life. I separated myself from that when I was 16 because it wasn't right for me. That caused a whole family rift, as it should.
Mm-hmm.
I went into Satanism because of an ex-boyfriend, and that's what he was. But even he felt that wasn't right for him. So we went atheist, and then I've been going between atheism and being agnostic because I'm also a scientist, and having an absolute, there's nothing there, didn't sit right with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned about paganism through my current partner, which is Steve. Eric, you've had a couple of conversations with him.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So he asked me to call in, particularly when V was here, because he felt they would give me assistance, which is I'm starting this new journey into paganism,
mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to figure out what I should do, how I should do it. I guess hearing from other people's journeys. And I know that everybody says, this is your own journey, you can figure it out. But
that's not very helpful.
I'm an introvert. I don't like going around talking to people on a daily basis. And 2, looking on the internet can get overwhelming, and you never know what's the right information.
Mm-hmm.
So being around like-minded people, I felt would have been helpful. So I guess my question is kind of weird because it's extremely broad. I don't know a way to kind of spearhead it into something simpler as help me.
Oh,
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for calling in, and thank you, Steve, for suggesting that you do. So the biggest piece that I would start with, and this is something that I wish that I had been told back when I was first starting to kind of dabble in ritual and spells and witchcraft and all of this, was there are very many groups of people in all different configurations, and they are going to say that they have the correct way and that you have to do things this way if you want to be real, right? Or if you don't want to be appropriative, or if you want to be, just the correct way to do this thing. And on some level, you always want to make sure that you aren't appropriating, another culture. That's, ideal. But
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of this, it isn't going to be you must be a Dianic witch or else you're not really one. Or, you must be of this particular sect of, Norse pagans, or you aren't really one, right? And there is going to be that mindset coming into play when you talk to other people. So as you get into this, as you start finding other pagans, you are going to come across that. Don't pay attention to it. It's not helpful. You and I both know, having been raised in Christianity, what that kind of purity mindset does. It just chills out any kind of creative or passion energy that you've got going, and it's not useful. So feel free to dismiss all of that. The other thing is that there is no one right way, as long as you are being mindful about it. So there is this really intense thing that I realized when I first started doing all of this, was I started feeling a lot of guilt around things like, I'm not, setting up my altar correctly, Or, I haven't done a ritual in 3 days. Does this make me wrong? Or, I did this part before this part, and is something going to happen that is not what I want to happen? Like all of these very kind of just rules and regulations, very legalistic. And I realized after a while that what I was doing was I was taking a lot of that latent kind of Christianity and that concept of you must do things a certain way or with certain, emotions or at certain times or consistently every day. And if you don't, then you're bad. And so it actually ended up revealing a lot of things that I had internalized, not directly related to the God concept or to Christianity as a whole, that I still needed to unpack a lot before I was able to really kind of get free and flow into it and really, experience it. So you are going to probably come up against some of those latent things that just kind of are living in your brain that you don't really notice. And once you notice them, it's going to feel like a step backwards. And this goes for anybody in any kind of ideological shift where you're moving from one mindset into another one. Every time you become aware that you are carrying baggage, it's going to feel like you're going backwards, but you're not. I guarantee you, every time you find that piece, that's a step forward. It's a hard one, but you are moving forward. So there would be that as well. And then finally, and then hopefully you can kind of pick a piece of all of this that I'm throwing at you and we can dive in deeper, is be okay with it not being real, if that makes sense. Because real doesn't mean real. So if something can be important and valuable and real in the sense that it impacts you in an actual physical, emotional, psychological way, and then that then impacts the world around you by how you engage with that, and not be real as in, you could, I don't know how to explain this so
Can
much. Yeah, go for it.
Sure. If I were to rephrase it, could I say, Sakura, you are exploring and dipping your toes into learning a new culture. And it is culture building that's going on in the pagan communities that you're going to be learning about. And learning about that culture is real. And identifying with and connecting with a culture and with a community is a wonderful thing. Those things are real. Those things being real doesn't impact supernatural beliefs, though. That if you find that culture, if you find that community, if you identify and all of those things, and that's wonderful, and you're growing as a person, you've made friends, that doesn't mean that magic stuff is real. But also recognizing that the magic stuff isn't real doesn't make you less positively impacted by the culture and community that you're becoming a part of. Does that sound right?
That's definitely a part of it. I want to get a little bit more wooey for a minute because
okay,
let's do it.
Oh no, I'm scared.
Sakura's like, let's do it.
Oh no.
All right, so here's something that happened to me. I had set up my altar. It was late at night, and I was listening to these chants. Specifically, it was an ongoing kind of goddess chant naming the different goddesses of these ancient religions, these ancient cultures. And I was, chanting along. I was getting into this really Zen mindset, right? Just because it felt good. And in my head, there was a flip of a switch. And I could see myself looking back at me from the other side of that altar. And that was freaking creepy and amazing and breathtaking. And in my head, that experience is real. Was I actually on both sides of my altar at the same time? No. Did I actually see a different version of myself from another dimension or from the past or the future looking back at me? No. I would never suggest that that was real in the sense that physics somehow bent out of shape and accommodated me in that moment. What I am saying, though, is that it lives in my memory as something that happened to me. And the catharsis and the awe and the chills down my spine that I experienced then are also real. And I know that that is my brain being playful with itself, right? I was tapping into something that I was able to do. My brain can do that. That's fucking cool. And I have the ability to make it happen, not on command, but with with regularity. I can figure out ways to tickle it. And I think that that's a good thing. And I think that it's something that we tend to run away from, especially in very skeptical or atheist circles, because for so long it has been co-opted by toxic religion. But it's just a facet of our brains and a function of what it is to be human. And if you can access that through a means that is not harmful to yourself or other people, you should do that, because that's giving you another facet to explore the world with. So that's what I mean by real but not real, right? Physically, nothing happened at the molecular level in the space-time continuum because I was doing a chant and got super blissed out. Do I have it in my memory just as vividly as many of my actual childhood memories? Yes. So in that instance, it is real but not real. And that frees you up a lot to start playing with that a lot more as you go into it. But that was a lot of information. I'm probably going to get very upset comments in the comment section of this video. But Sakura, what are your thoughts on all of that?
So an old professor of mine, I was a Jewish studies minor, and I was taking a psych of religion class. And the very first class, he said, there are some things that we just don't know. And I have ingrained that as part of my spiritual philosophy, that no matter how I feel or what I go through in my spiritual journey, I can't explain it. And I mentioned I'm a scientist, things have to make sense, but having that idea that there's certain things we just don't know, and it just has helped me be open-minded to the different ideas that are out there. And everything that you have said so far has really reinforced what I was afraid of pursuing. And essentially, you just said, yes, you're right. What you're feeling is the good thing. It's to keep going. Don't be afraid. Don't stop. And I do give gratitude to my partner, because I observe how he emulates his spirituality in his life and how it actually keeps him grounded. And seeing amazing people who have that sort of positive spirituality that helps them, I'm like, that's what I need, because I'm a hot ball of chaos. And I need grounded. And my mother, by the gods bless her, she's been worried about my spirituality, because I have separated from the Christian faith, but she has accepted that no matter what I do need a spiritual identity, and not having that really offsets everything else that's happening in my life. So this is absolutely amazing, and it's been extremely helpful for me. And I do appreciate you guys taking the time to help me. And this will probably not be the last time I call to ask a question.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be less broad and more, okay, I figured out the thing. Now I need to just weed out some other things.
The joy is in the journey. Don't wait until you've got it all figured out. It's so fun to explore all those topics. So yeah, best of luck to you.
Yeah, Sakura, you are in a very cool position as somebody who has an understanding of science and is willing to play in this space. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun, and I think that if you feel like this is what you need, then you should do it. And the anxiety around that should come from the excitement of exploring something new and unfamiliar that feels promising, and not from worrying about what other people are going to think of you. Because that's certainly also something I had to get over. But it sounds like you're well on your way, and we would love to have you call back.
I definitely will, and probably with Steve in the background, because I'm usually with him.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much.
thank you all for so much for your time. Love you guys. And I miss the kitty.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
she's found a sunbeam around here somewhere. Take care.
Bye. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal for me. Like, and I say this every time we have and I resent a little bit the fact that I have to say this every time we have a positive conversation with someone who is not a staunch atheist.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much shit going on in the world right now. Do what you need to do to be happy. If you're not pushing it on other people, if you are not allowing it to harm you, if you are being skeptical in how you pursue that thing, and you are a kind person, like...
And pragmatically, absolutely.
Right. And we can get into specifics around like, okay, well, is this thing physically possible? Sure, 100%. But that's not always the conversation that needs to be had.
No.
And sometimes people just need to hear somebody else say, yes, you can do this. Just, be smart about it.
What's interesting to me listening to it, number one, I needed to bite my tongue because I wanted to be pedantic a couple of times, which just would not have added anything to the conversation. Fellow pedants, feel free to put it in the comments because you're not the only one, but that wasn't the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation is, and at least for me, what I got from that was a secular redefinition and a positive use to the term spiritual.
Exactly.
And when you can engage with something, I think that for me, the word spiritual is just keep it away because I have baggage. I have religious trauma. I have all of those pieces that make me look at that word spiritual and go, nah, fuck off.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you hear a word just outside of any additional context, that word gives you an intense emotional response. If that's disgust, if that's, indignance, if that's anger, that's you. You have some work to do to dig out exactly why that word made you feel that way. It might be a reasonable way to feel, but it still is something you are bringing to a word that does not have that emotion inherently attached. So as we're having these conversations, if we use words that make you feel uncomfortable, that is a great opening to a much bigger conversation around why that is, and is that logical? And if it is, that's great. We want to know about it. If it's not, then you might have just been able to add a word to your lexicon that you avoided before for a bad reason.
Decoupling spirituality from supernatural.
Yeah.
I can dig that. There's a whole conversation about, descriptivism and all of that, but let's go with that.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.